Quick lesson.
Hey, what's happening, guys? It's Dave here with a quick lesson. It is week 4 of Rut Busters. This week we're going to be talking about rhythm. I would argue that the hardest thing to teach is phrasing. There's a lot of different ways and things you can do to rearrange stuff. It's kind of overwhelming. It's kind of awesome because there's always something new to pull from. But I would say for a lot of players, there's a couple different things about rhythm that you want to think about. One is I find that a lot of players' transitions from eighth notes to triplets to 16th notes can be a little rough, so we're going to talk about exercise for that. So let's just do that. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a measure of each, and I'm just going to go back and forth. So right now it's just going to be straight scale, but at some point in this, once you have that general vocabulary back and forth of how those kind of fit together, it's good to start to improvise with it. So for this, I would just recommend a click, okay? And here it is at 60. So I'm going to play eighth notes, then a measure of triplets, and then a measure of sixteenths, and I'm going to keep going. 1, 2, and 3. So you can do this forever. You can just keep on going on back and forth. But then you can have fun. So, you know, eventually you can try and keep it so you're only playing triplets within a certain measure. At some point you're going to be tempted to kind of resolve a phrasing with like just a downbeat. I'm sure I just did that. That's fine as long as you know that you're able to da 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 da. Sometimes just doing that on an open string or a single note like that is one of the best things you can do. Then you realize once you start adding other notes, it really just becomes there's nothing to get redundant over. You can kind of create a lot from just a little. Is what I'm trying to say here. So that's what I'm trying to say. Another thing I'm trying to say is a lot of the times. Here, I'll shut this up. A lot of the times, players will start on a very specific phrase. We'll start a very specific phrase on a specific beat. So, and this is something you won't notice unless you record yourself. So I would have you record yourself over a backing track and just kind of see if you can count the rhythm. See if you can tell if you're coming in at a very specific timing. Now it does take a knowledge of rhythm to understand when you're coming in, but especially if you're just thinking like eighth notes about when to come in, practice specifically starting phrases. Whatever happens after you start the phrase is irrelevant almost, but starting the phrase on very specific beats, and then seeing what that feels like and seeing how you want to resolve it in the real time with improv. So I'm going to go to the backing track just so you can kind of hear it. I'm going to start phrases on the and of one. And I'm just going to do all the different ands, basically. So if I start a phrase on the end of one, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. So if I start on the end of 2, 1, 2, 3. That was horrible. 1, 2. And a 3. 1, 2, 3. to 4. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4. So you can hear it. Like, they all have their own different flavor. Maybe perhaps against a different backing track they would sound even different. But coming in on different beats like that, or even the downbeats, there's so many that I didn't explore. But that specifically, of being conscious of that, and thinking, what is the opposite of what I just did? Pretty much every time, you'll start to hear all the different options. And with that, we'll see you next week.